Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Laura. Welcome to my home in the north of Boston. Please come in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Laura Castergine. I am an Instagram content creator, and I share pictures and videos of my home and projects that I do, DIY projects, sewing, and that kind of thing. And I'd love to show you around, so welcome to my home. We bought this home 19 years ago, and when we came here, we lived a half a mile away in another house in this town, and we were looking for a bigger house with a bigger yard. Our kids were at that point 3, 5, and 7. We had been on the hunt for a while, and we were struggling finding things. This town is full of lots and lots of old houses, and a lot of them need a lot of work. So every time we looked at something, my husband said, "That's not going to work. That's too much. That's too much." So we found this house from a friend of a friend. She knew a neighbor was selling it, and she said, "Laura, I know a woman who's selling her house. Would you want to go look at it? She doesn't really want to put it on the market, but would you like to look at it?" So we came over one afternoon with the kids, came through this house, and she had it decorated in a very Victorian way. Very heavy velvet drapes, sheers on the windows, so it was very dark. And she had a collection of antique dolls in glass cases everywhere. The kids were terrified. We left the house and they said, "I don't want to live there." But my husband looked at me and he said, "I'm not going to be able to get you out of this one, am I?" So that's how it happened. So we bought the house, and there was a lot to do, but we tackled it a little bit at a time, and over 20 years, we finally feel like we're at a place where we've gotten it all done. I would say that my home style has evolved a lot over the last 20 years. When we first moved here, I was making a lot of my own curtains, and I had taken a class in sewing, and I was sort of doing what I knew, which was making it pretty, but I think since that time, I've really changed how I approach decorating in terms of color and pattern. I've always loved fabric. My mother was a really good seamstress, and she taught me to sew. And so she's always incorporated a lot of different fabrics into her designs. And when I think about even just this room has changed several times since we've lived here. And again, I think I'm finally at a place where it's where I want it to be. This is our living room, and it's probably the room that we spend the most time in as a family. We have a wood burning fireplace that we use a lot in the winter, and it's just a cozy room. The sectional is something that's been very comfortable for all of us, and there's enough chairs for the whole family, and when everyone's home, this is where we gather. As you can see, this room is color drenched in blue, meaning the woodwork and the walls are all the same color. This was a project that I did around COVID, and that was, again, an influence. Somebody online there were a lot of people that were doing it, and I said, you know what, I really want to give this a try. The color was just a happy accident. I didn't know if this would be the right color, but it's Benjamin Moore Wild Blue Yonder, probably one of my most asked questions on Instagram. Everybody loves this blue. And when we moved into this house, the walls were yellow, and all of this woodwork, the mantle and the surrounds, all the molding was painted white. This house was built in 1904, so it's 120 years old. And when we moved in, there was a lot of natural woodwork, and we knew that we probably couldn't paint that. I just would have felt too guilty painting that beautiful woodwork. But the woodwork in this room was already painted white, so I felt like we could do that. We could paint it. So we went with this beautiful blue, and it's been something that I think that's one of the reasons I love this room so much, is I just love being enveloped in this color. Another thing I'll point out is these unusual arches that are over the bookcases. They were a little bit of a design question for me. I didn't know exactly what to do with them. So wallpaper seemed like an interesting option. This is actually the second set of wallpaper I've had in these. This wallpaper was originally meant for our dining room, but when my wallpaper guy came over and started putting it up, he realized that because of the foiling, it showed too many marks underneath because the walls are very textured in there. So I returned most of the wallpaper, but we had one opened roll. So I used this in there. I thought I have a whole roll of this beautiful Thibaut wallpaper, and this is another feature that people love on Instagram. Everybody loves these little alcoves. And I'm always, changing up what goes in the different shelving up here. Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's statuettes, sometimes I have all kinds of different things that I change out. Seasonally, I usually put a little Christmas tree up here. So it's always varied. These bookcases are all leaded glass. They're really beautiful, and I love having places for books to go because I think books add to a room always. You'll see a lot of stacks of books everywhere too. Most of these are design books that I love to pull out and find inspiration from. This gallery wall was probably the first gallery wall that I put together, and people usually tell you to start with one big piece. This is a watercolor of Beacon Hill. We're in the Boston area, so a lot of these things are Boston. This up here is Bunker Hill. We used to live in Charlestown before we moved to Melrose. And then this is the Boston State House. The rest of them are sort of just a collection of different things. There are two needle points up here. The needlepoint, I do needlepoint myself, and these are vintage needlepoints that I bought on eBay. Wonderful source for vintage needlepoint if you're interested in it. Some of them have gold frames, some of them have black frames, some are a combination, and I think they work well together. Mixing patterns is something that I really enjoy doing, and I don't think that it comes naturally to everyone. I don't know that it comes naturally to me, but I have found that there are certain rules around when you're combining colors. Try to keep with 2 or 3 colors and sort of varying the scales a little bit. This fabric that is on the bench cushion is a really beautiful fabric that's sort of a combination of an animal print. There's another animal print over here in this pillow. These aren't animal print, but they're obviously a nod towards it. And the curtains I made, and they've been up for quite a while. They're probably the oldest thing that I've done design-wise in this room. And I still like them. I mean, they've probably been here for 10 years, and they're still working for me. I want to point out the radiator cover over here. We have cast iron radiators in this house, and they're wonderful and warm and all of the things, but they're not the most attractive things. So we've tried to cover up some of them. We have a few wooden radiator covers like this. This one actually came unassembled, and I put it together and painted it the same color as the rest of the woodwork in the room, and then had this bench cushion made. Some of the other rooms I'll show you, we've used different ways of utilizing the radiators as shelving. We put like a shelf on top of them. So, but I like it when they're this low and you can make it into a bench. The dining room has one of those as well. So this is the parlor on the left-hand side of our entry, and now I'll take you to the parlor on the right-hand side that we call the green room, and you'll see why. So this we call our green room for obvious reasons. This room was a design project that I did for the One Room Challenge, which is an Instagram, not a contest or a competition, but just sort of something that people do to kind of get yourself going on a project. You have 6 to 8 weeks to complete a room, and you document it weekly for people. So first thing that we did was paint the walls and the woodwork, all this beautiful Farrow and Ball Yearbridge green. And then there's wallpaper on the ceiling. So we have 4 fireplaces in this house. This is the only non-working fireplace. It was a gas fireplace. You can kind of see how it still has the gas insert in there. So this is a non-functioning one, but I think it's really beautiful. And this old modeled Victorian tile is original to the house. The whole mantle is original to the house, but and this insert as well, which I think is gorgeous. All the fireplaces in our house have a mirror above them. So it's one of those kind of things that we didn't have to purchase, which is wonderful. And I think it adds a lot to the room. It's reflective of light, and they're all beveled mirrors. And the mantle's fun to decorate. These sconces are on either side of the fireplace. All of the fireplaces in our house have these sconces. When we originally moved in, one of the things that we had to address was the electric. We had all knob and tube wiring, which had to be replaced. And the electrician was charging by outlet or fixture. So we were really cutting corners. And so we did not rewire the sconces on any of the fireplaces. So since then, we have rewired the ones in the living room and in the dining room, but these are still non-working. But I did figure out a way to get them working with little battery operated. There are two pieces of furniture in this room that are important to me because they belong to my mother. My mother was a huge lover of antiques, and from a very young age, she was taking us to flea markets, and we were doing antique hunting. So I think I came by that naturally. These two pieces, so this is actually a two-piece desk. This was in her house, and she gave that to me. And then this corner cabinet over here, when they downsized, she gave us this. And this is probably my favorite piece of furniture in the house. It was always in their dining room. I'm not gonna be able to open it because of the humidity. But it's filled with all kinds of china and collectibles that just make me happy. So during the one room challenge, this room was completely refurnished. And everything in here, with the exception of the two pieces that were my mother's, came from Facebook Marketplace. So the settee, which we sort of pulled out from the window a little bit, and these two chairs, both from Facebook Marketplace. This was Facebook Marketplace as well, $19, I think, and I had it recovered. This was from Salvation Army, got that recovered, another Facebook Marketplace. We've had things moved around a little bit. I originally had those two chairs over here in front of the fireplace, but we always do our Christmas tree in here. And last year when we had the Christmas tree up, we kind of liked it better in the front of this window. So those chairs went elsewhere. They had been here, and so we moved things around a lot, actually. So here's an example of a radiator that does not have a cover, but I was lucky enough to find this marble piece that fits it perfectly. So it's now a functional shelf. And it looks pretty attractive too. We use this as a little bit of a cocktail area when we have friends over, and the shelf is adequate space for a nice little bar setup. I found these at an antique mall up in Danvers, Massachusetts. You'll see this unusual box framed up here, and this is covering a mini split. During the one room challenge, I was really trying to figure out a way to camouflage the mini splits because they're not very attractive. So this is just a simple couple of boards. I made a frame and painted it the same green as the rest of the room. And this is like a screening that you can buy, and stapled that gunned that into the side of it. So it still functions, so you can still function the air conditioning through this vented hole thing. This arrangement of flowers is all from my garden. This was the first year that I tried to do a cutting garden, and I grew dahlias and zinnias and cosmos and some other filler flowers. But I really love how they turned out, and I've enjoyed so much learning how to arrange and grow the flowers. The woodwork in the entry is one of the things that attracted us to this house. It is dark, and a lot of people probably would have painted this woodwork, but it's really beautiful quarter sawn oak, and we love it. It goes up the staircase onto the second floor, and it's also in this little vestibule area that's here. In this section, I have added a wallpaper. This was just leftover wallpaper from the dining room, so I put that in here as well, just to add a little extra visual interest. Up the staircase, we have all family pictures. These are all black and white pictures. Some of them were originally in black and white, some of them were colored that I had made into black and white just for the gallery wall. My mother did this in her house, and we always called it Rogue's Gallery. So that's what this is. This is our version of Rogues Gallery. And there are a few in particular that I really love. This is my grandparents' wedding picture. That's my parents' wedding picture. My husband's parents' wedding picture up there. And I'd love to show you my husband's grandparents' wedding picture, which is probably my favorite picture we have in here. This is a photograph of my husband's grandparents. They were married in the early 20s, and you can sort of tell by the fashion. And it's a piece that was gifted to me by my mother-in-law before she passed away, and she knew that it had to be in our house. So I feel really, really lucky that it's here. There's one other one over here. This is a photograph of my father-in-law when he was 4 years old. It has a very cool concave glass, convex glass, and I love this one too. This room right here is our powder bath, and it was originally a hall closet. And what we did, there was no bathroom on the first floor in this house, which I think was pretty typical 100 years ago. So what we did is we took down a wall that was here. This space right here was the pantry from the kitchen. We took down a wall here and made this into a really functional bathroom. This is a vanity that I bought online. You can see underneath here is a wooden chest. And I made the sink skirt for it, and this is probably one of the most controversial things I did on Instagram because a lot of people loved this wooden chest. And a lot of people love the sink skirt, and I actually love both. So sometimes the sink skirt's on, sometimes it comes down, and we kind of go back and forth. This marble top I had cut by the same guy that did the marble in our kitchen, and I love that he did this arch over the backsplash. It's really pretty. And this mirror I bought at an antique store up in Danvers, the same antique mall that I keep referring to is in Danvers, Massachusetts. Bought that mirror there. The wallpaper was a fairly recent project. I have always loved the chinoiserie bird motif that you see in all the Gracie wallpapers. This is a Thibaut wallpaper, and I love how it turned out. I grew up in a military family. My father was in the Air Force, and we moved every 2.5 years. And everywhere we went, my mother made a home, and she made it beautiful. And I think for her, she kind of enjoyed the process of having a clean slate every couple of years. So I watched her over and over and over again making a new home. And it was a priority for her. I think she's my greatest inspiration. She was, like I said, a great seamstress. She made a lot of her own things. She made all of her own curtains. She made bedspreads. She made bed skirts, pillows, you name it. If it had to do with the home, she made it. She was also very crafty. So I think I've gotten all of those things from her. This is our dining room. Again, another room that has the natural woodwork. And it's all quarter sawn oak, so nothing that I would ever consider painting. It's a big enough room to handle a large crowd. This table is set for 6 right now, but we have had Thanksgivings last year we had 18 people. This year we'll have 20. So what I've done is extended this table, put a couple leaves in it, pushed it over to the side, and then we set up a couple of other folding tables over here. And I just try to set it so that it's similarly set to the other table, so that it's all, everybody feels like they've got a special place. So today's table setting, which I love setting a table, my family makes fun of me because it's oftentimes the first thing that I do to get ready for a holiday. So oftentimes the table will be set a week before a holiday. I have a combination of these plates, these dragon bowls that were purchased at Salvation Army, and these plates which I bought at Home Goods. And flatware is some faux bamboo that I bought online. These came from an estate sale in Newport, the goblets. And this is from an Instagram seller that I love. I had been on a hunt for a dining room table. I'd been looking on Facebook Marketplace, wasn't coming up with anything. And a house one street over was going on the market. And I went and looked through the house. It was a beautiful, beautiful old house. The family, the woman who had lived there had passed away. And so it was an estate sale. And first they were selling the house, and I saw this dining room set in the house. And I said to the realtor, do you think that they'll be selling the furniture eventually? And she said, yeah, I think they will. They'll probably have an estate sale. So I kept an eye out. The realtor ended up emailing me, letting me know that the table and chairs were included in the estate sale. So I kept an eye out, and I got lucky and bought the table for $2, and the chairs were a little more than that. The chairs were, I think, $350 for the set of 8 chairs. And so when we went to pick it up, it was a lot to put in a car, and it's literally one street over. So my son and my boys, carried it through the yard into the house. So I have the table from one street over. And the chairs were actually in good shape, but they needed to be reupholstered. And I talked to an upholsterer about it, and they were a lot of money to reupholster, so I decided to attempt upholstering them myself. So this was my first upholstery job. I bought a pneumatic staple gun and bought some fabric at Simmons, and I think they turned out pretty well. One of the things that I loved about this house was the built-ins in this dining room. We had nothing in our previous home, so I could not put out any crystal or china. I'd had wedding china, and it was always just in storage in the basement. So to have cabinets like this that I can fill up with all of our china and crystal is just been really, really fun. I'll show you. And it's a collection. These cabinets are all working locking cabinets. Several keys. These are all just different dishes that I've collected over the years. Most of them are vintage. I don't think there's anything here that's new. Some of it was my wedding china. This is my wedding china here. This cabinet has my collection of real old blue willow, which I bought at a little antique store, a full set of it for $100. This was a very good deal. You can see it sort of scattered through here, and we do use this. I use everything. Everything is meant to be used, so it's all going to get used. This platter back here I bought at the Paris flea market, and this tureen came from an antique mall up in northern Mass, and I think that's all that's interesting in there. This is one of our working fireplaces. We do not use it very often because it's warm in here when you have a large gathering. Nobody really wants to sit with their back to the fire, so it honestly doesn't get used very often, but every once in a while we'll put a fire in here. So when we moved into the house, the previous owner had decided that she really wanted to keep the chandelier that was in here. It wasn't my style anyway, so I said that's fine. So my husband and I picked this chandelier out. It looked very different than it does right now. Originally it was kind of a Tuscan look, and it had these kind of these amber colored tulip shades, glass shades that went up this way. And during COVID, I decided that I just didn't really care for it anymore, but I wasn't going to replace it because it's a good chandelier. So I bought these candle covers and escutcheons to lengthen the socket cover, and now it's something that I enjoy. I like it. The chairs on the end of the table are Milo Bowman chairs, which I wanted something at either end as something that was unusual or different, something that wasn't the same era as the other chairs. And I was on a hunt for something like this. And I ended up finding these in Florida on Facebook Marketplace. And this is a good tip. If you know somebody in an area that, it's far away from you, but maybe somebody else can pick it up for you. And it just so happened that it was an hour away from where my father lives in Florida. And I called him and I said, Dad, do you think you'd mind picking these up for me? And he said, sure, I'll take a road trip, no problem. So he went and he loaded them up in his car, and then a couple months later, he drove them up from Florida. So now they're in my house, and I love them. This is our Butler's pantry. It connects the kitchen to the dining room. It's a wonderful transitional room that we use mostly for serving. It also functions as a bar. This room, when we bought the house, had nothing on this side. So you could just put furniture that you bought on these walls. But this cabinet over here was already built in. So this was already here. And when we redid the kitchen, we put all of this cabinetry in to mimic what was already here. The other thing we did, very functional, probably my favorite thing that we did with the kitchen renovation, is put in these refrigerator drawers. They have been so useful. And this is set up like a desk, but it doesn't really get used as a desk very often. But it's a wonderful functioning space that we use primarily for serving drinks and serving food that goes into the dining room. The wallpaper in here was probably one of my first COVID projects. Again, inspired by somebody on Instagram who had this print, which is a Thibaut, it's called Honshu. It was, somebody had it as their curtains, and I love the fabric, I love the print. So I said, I'm gonna use this wallpaper somewhere, and I thought this room was sort of the perfect place to use it. When we purchased this house, it had a very 1970s kitchen. So there was baseboard heating and a stove that just sat on the wall here, and very dark, ugly cabinets and Formica countertops. We waited 8 years to do a renovation because we just couldn't afford it before then. We did like a mini makeover, replaced countertops, took down like the ugly Formica backsplash, and painted and did a tile backsplash, and I painted the cabinets, and it did look better. So that lasted us 8 years. And then we finally said, it's time to do this. So we pulled everything down, took it down to the studs, insulated it because this room was always very, very cold in the wintertime. We put in different heating because the baseboard was not efficient at all. And the cabinetry is built up to the ceilings, which I think gives the room more height. The backsplash is a Calcutta gold marble that my brother-in-law did. My brother-in-law is a tile contractor, and my husband's family is actually in the tile business. The family owned a tile store, and my brother-in-law still did tiles, so he did the backsplash for us. We hand-picked each little tile to go in each specific place based on the pattern in the marble. The countertops are a honed granite. I like them because I think they look like soapstone. This island is from West Elm. It's done pretty well for us, and it's the right size and very functional. I recently did a kitchen refresh and redid all the curtains that are in here. So I made the curtains that are over the sink, or the Roman shade over the sink, and then the little cafe curtains here. I had this bench covered with a fabric that I found on eBay. It's a Schumacher fabric that I found on eBay, and one of my Instagram friends actually covered that for me. The plates are just, again, collections, things that I've bought over the years at flea markets, and they had to go up on the wall. My husband says that if we ever have an earthquake here, we're going to be covered in china, but hopefully that's not going to happen. We have our laundry room right off of the kitchen, and it's very visible. This is the entrance that we use primarily coming in and out of the house, and I always wanted it to be more attractive. So a friend of mine, another Instagram friend who came out from Worcester, came and helped me wallpaper this room. That was an adventure. It was a difficult room to wallpaper, but we figured it out, and I love how it turned out. When we did the renovation, the only thing that we kept that was original to the kitchen were these fir floors, and they have a real used patina to them, but I love them, and we didn't want to change them, so that's original. That's the only thing that's original in this kitchen. During COVID, we were all looking for things to do. It was a quiet time, and I was just going on Instagram for the first time at that point. And I was following all these home accounts and really enjoying all of their content. And my niece said to me, "Auntie, you could do that. You should share pictures of your home. You have really beautiful things, and you also do all kinds of interesting projects. I think people would really enjoy seeing it." So I gave it a try. I didn't know how it would go. And after the first year, I had kind of established an account, but I'd also made so many connections with people. And that's the thing that I've enjoyed the most about my Instagram account is all of the friends that I've made. They've turned into real life friends too. Some of them I've gone on trips with, some of them I meet and we go flea marketing together, or we go to home shows. I even did a trip to Paris with a group of ladies who are on Instagram, and we did old house tours, and we did antiquing, we went to flea markets, and it was just a wonderful trip. So I've really made some, I think, lifelong friends, and I've also found such inspiration from other people on Instagram. I'll point out different things around the house when we do a walk around and just show you some of the things that are completely inspired by things that I've seen on Instagram. And a lot of them are things that, projects that I never thought that I'd be able to do. And it sort of gives you this, not only inspiration, but also confidence that you can try these things. And I've also purchased some things from Instagram sellers. There's some wonderful, wonderful people out there selling vintage and antiques. And I found that to be like a really good place to find things. This is our primary room. It is not a huge room. We have a queen size bed, and it's actually been a perfect size for us. We do have a fireplace in here, which we do use. Occasionally on a winter evening, it's very, very nice to snuggle up by a fire. The thing I like the best about this bedroom is all of the natural light. We have 4 very large windows in here, which can be drafty. One of the main things that we did in the house relatively quickly was to restore all of our windows. We didn't do any replacement. We sort of felt like they were original, beautiful, old glass and double hung wood windows. So we did a full restoration on them, and we didn't do them all at once. We did probably 10 or 12 at a time, and finally did all 50 in the house eventually. So I love the windows in here, and you sort of feel like you're in a tree house. We have this big cypress that's right outside, and the bed next to the windows, it's sort of lovely. We're big window open people, and so in the summertime, these windows are all open, and we just love having the fresh air and the cross breeze going through. Right off of our bedroom is our primary bath, and this was originally just a sitting room, and this door was not here. The door to the room was off of the hallway here. And it was not a particularly functional room. We didn't really have any use for it. And we thought, it's right next to the primary bedroom. We should make this into a bathroom. The only problem was that there was no plumbing in the front of the house. So we had a very smart plumber who figured out that we could take the piping from the basement and run it through the hollows in the living room where the pocket doors are. So now we have plumbing up in this area. And this window seat was always here when it was a sitting room, but the rest of it is all new. We have radiant heating in the floor, which we love. This tile, again, done by my brother-in-law. He is a master tile worker. He did the shower, and it's been a great bathroom. It really is probably the bathroom that everybody in the house uses. We do have one other main bath that is supposed to be for the kids, but this is the bathroom that gets used the most. The art up here between the mirrors are vintage bird prints that I had framed. I think I found those at the Cambridge Antique Mart, and I love how they kind of the colors, it picks up the colors from this tile, which is a honey onyx, has a little bit of an orange tone to it, and I thought that these bird's eye frames kind of picked up the same tones. This is my most recent project. I just finished making these curtains. I have a friend, an interior designer friend, who was able to get me some designer fabric with her discount, and so this is a Schumacher embroidered fabric that I really love, and so I made the curtains, and they've been perfect too. This was my daughter's room. She is now 26 and living on her own, so this has become our guest room, and it hasn't changed a lot from when it was her room. The colors are still the same. She loves pink, and it's probably a little more feminine than it might be for a guest room, but I still love it, so it's probably not going to change. I recently added these curtains and the shades, which these are all Amazon shades, Amazon curtains. Very inexpensive panels. The bedding is a William Morris print that I got at HomeGoods. And the quilt is an old quilt that belonged to my mom. My mother collected quilts. She also made quilts, so this isn't one she made, but she did collect this one. My family thinks that this was a crazy purchase. I did buy this at HomeGoods, and I personally love it. I hope that guests love it, but it's, again, a controversial one. So we call this our game room. This was originally the kids' playroom when we first moved into the house, and then just a couple of years ago we decided it needed a refresh. So all of this furniture is from Facebook Marketplace, including the vintage poker table back here. And this is often what this room gets used for, is playing poker. Both of my sons enjoy bringing friends over and either watching movies or playing poker. We have a bar set up here, so we do have friends over occasionally to watch movies, and it's a fun room, and it's decorated in sort of a different style from what my usual way of decorating is. This is more of a mid-century modern look, but I think it works really well for a game room. I've decorated all around the television with antique and vintage game boards. My mother actually had a few of these. This one was hers, and that one up there was hers, and that one was hers as well. So she actually used to have things like that hanging on the walls all over our house. So those were, I thought, a fun addition. And these over here, they're card needle points that I purchased on Cherish. And I think my first and only ever Cherish purchase. But I love them. I love them because they're antique needlepoint or vintage needlepoint, and I love the card motif in here as it's the game room. We're up on our third floor now, and this is my sewing room. So this is where I do a lot of my projects, all of the curtains that I make, and it's such a fun space. The color, the pink, was a pink that I found in a Lily Pulitzer dressing room. I went into the dressing room and I loved the color, and I said to the salesperson, "Can you tell me what this color is?" And she told me, and I came home and I painted this crazy pink. But I love it. I find it really inspirational. And again, another radiator that I have covered with a radiator cover this time and used as a shelf. The slope ceilings are interesting architecturally, but I love how the dormers in here provide space for a table or a desk. So this is where my sewing machine is. And this one over here, I actually built this window seat. It was an IKEA bench with drawers, and I just sort of put some molding around it and fixed it in, and then the window seat cover I had made by a friend. So this is a favorite spot for us, both me and the dog. We love to sit here and read and needlepoint. It's a great spot. You can see out the window. He loves it too. One of my crafts has been making wreaths at Christmas time, And this is one of my favorite ones. It usually hangs downstairs in the guest room at Christmas time. But I love it so much that I didn't want to put it away, so it kind of hangs in here during the rest of the year. This Italian tole chandelier came from a flea market up in Todd Farm, and I had it rewired because it was very old and crusty and had the old wiring in it, but I think it adds a really fun, whimsical touch in this room. Home, to me, is a soft place to land at the end of the day. I want my family to feel like they have a comfortable place to come and enjoy themselves and just find comfort at the end of a day. We all have days that are stressful and chaotic, and I hope that they always find comfort in home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.